So this isn't going to be that cute of a video. I'm really just here to address what needs to be addressed based on the choices that Carrie has made and how that's made me feel. And so essentially this video is just going to be me running over what I can see in the Eras of Us song lyrics in the music video and in the promo, and what all of that symbolism ties to, relates to. And then I'm just going to explain like how the song made me feel, and where I'm at. And that's going to be the video. It's like, I'm just really, there's no fluff today. I'm not even going to like talk off the top of my head in terms of how I feel. Like I've written down how I feel, and I'm just going to like read it. It's going to be a very boring video. But yeah, I'm just trying to keep that throat chakra clear, and trying to process, what I'm going through right now, because I'm really going through it. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going through it. And I'm just going to put this out there, in hopes that it might offer me some relief from my own suffering. And yeah, that's what I'm here for. I'm looking for relief from my suffering, and that's the situation. And I'm gonna stop now so that I don't cry, because I think I've had enough crying.
Eras of Us. The Muse. Better version music video. Muse. Actor. Eras of Us music video. Muse. Actor. The Train from Paris. My tweet from June. Imagine making the first dream I ever had about you in November 2021 real. The one where we fell in love on a train from France to Italy and stayed together on the Italian Riviera that neither of us could bring ourselves to leave. The tweet referenced a TikTok of mine from November last year.
So I've been dreaming about Fletcher a lot in the last month, which makes sense because she's been on my conscious mind during the day a lot more of late, and so it makes sense that I would be dreaming about her at night. But today, when I woke up from another Fletcher dream that I couldn't quite remember, I just kind of knew the vibe was good, I suddenly remembered about a dream that I'd had about Fletcher, the very first dream I'd had about her, like ages ago. I just knew it was a long time ago, but it had something to do with trains, and it was like very prominent in my mind. So I dug up my dream journal that I was keeping at that time, and I opened it up, and what's crazy is today is the 4th of November in Australia, and this dream happened, I recorded it on the 3rd of November last year. So exactly a year later, the dream suddenly popped in my mind. So basically I had a dream that I was on a train, and I was like sitting in one little kind of row of seats, and she was sitting in front of me, but she had sunglasses on. I didn't realize it was her. And a guy came up to me trying to hit on me. And so I was trying to tell him that first of all, I was gay, and even if I wasn't, I was demisexual. So he'd have to like open up to me and not like go super bold to begin with. He was being an asshole. So Fletcher, in the like next row of seats over, got up, turned around, and basically told him to fuck off. And so she ended up coming and sitting down with me, and we were chatting. And so what ended up happening was that we fell in love with each other on the train, according to this dream. And we were totally comfortable with each other. We were able to be super vulnerable. We didn't judge each other. And when each of us like fucked up, we just like was able to fix it. And in the end of the dream, I was supposed to take her to the airport to leave so she could go back to the US. This was happening in Europe, by the way. And we'd ended up somewhere like in Italy, I think. And yeah, I was supposed to take her to the airport to get on a plane to leave, but the dream ended when she decided not to get on the plane. So it was like definitely giving Ross and Rachel. I remember waking up and thinking, that's weird, because at the time I hadn't thought about her in a romantic way, even though obviously my subconscious like concocted this whole like falling in love business. At the forefront of my mind, it was definitely more friendly vibes, if anything. And what's crazy is that since I dreamt this dream, she went on to release a Girl of My Dreams album, and also has Dream Reader on her now set for her tour, which I keep dream journals to analyze them, and I'd taken the dream at the time very not literally, and I'd taken it to mean maybe I'm ready to fall in love again. Isn't this crazy?
Espresso Martini. Here's why espresso martinis trigger a memory for her in the music video.
And I remember in that live that you did with Kelsey, when you were asking each other about like what drinks you would be or something, I remember like immediately thinking when Kelsey asked you what you thought she would be, I was like, I think Carrie's gonna say espresso martini. And I was just like, I'll just wait and see. I won't type it in the chat, and I'll just, if Carrie says it, it means that we're thinking similar things at similar times. We're on the same. I'm not sure what that cut me off, but I was like, yeah, that was like my test of like, are we on the same vibe? Are we thinking the same thing?
The hair sweep. When Carrie sweeps her hair behind her ear in this clip, it references a TikTok of mine from September.
Tell me why I was scrolling on my FYP and a clip of Carrie talking on an Instagram live happened to make it onto my feed, and I realised that I'd seen part of that Instagram live before, but I must have never finished it because I hadn't seen the specific clip that had made it onto my FYP. So I went to YouTube, found the exact same Instagram live, realised I'd only missed the last couple of minutes of the live, clicked into it, watched the rest of it, and somehow the part that I'd missed was this.
Like a big part of love is like mannerisms, I think. I don't know. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just a shallow bitch. But I'm not, because that like you can totally fall in love with the way that somebody like tucks their hair behind their ear or something. I don't know.
Like, tell me how Carrie was talking about falling in love with people's specific mannerisms, and the example she pulls out of her butt is the way someone sweeps their hair behind their ear. When everyone knows that is my move. And I even did it in the first few seconds of one of the very first interactions we ever had. Plus, this is the specific mannerism of mine that Carrie copies the most. Like, this synchronicity being from 3 years ago is like super wild. And this is around the time that I first started following her too. Like that's simply too much.
Story of love. The story of love lyrics from the song reference Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet are forbidden, star-crossed lovers and considered one of the greatest love stories of all time. In my YouTube video from July, I likened their story to Carrie and my love story. This was around the time I added the song Love Story by Taylor Swift to my playlist about Carrie. This song also references Romeo and Juliet, and therefore it symbolized this era of our connection. 16 Seasons. If you go to my playlist about Carrie, you'll see it's titled Snow on the Beach, which is another Taylor Swift song. That's because we told each other we liked each other on the exact same day that Taylor Swift announced the song Snow on the Beach from the Midnight's album. And if you scroll through the playlist, you will see exactly 16 Taylor Swift songs are contained within the 12-hour-long playlist. Each one marks a particular season or era of our connection. Based on what Carrie said in a live about the song, it's likely that these are the 16 seasons she was actually talking about.
These lyrics and these songs to an artist that has like narrated so many of my romances and my breakups and my loves was such a wild feeling.
Because there are actually 17 seasons between June 2016, when Carrie met Shannon, and the beginning of fall 2020 when the Sex Tapes EP was released. They would have needed to end 3 months before the EP came out for the timeline to add up. So if they were still working together within the 3 months leading up to the EP release, Carrie can't have been talking about Shannon when she said 16 seasons, because that would have been 17. The line "we crashed just as quick as we burned" that Carrie included in the song and in the song promo references a TikTok I posted in July.
All I have left to say is like, good luck promoting her album now that her crush has crashed.
Crash then became the name of my Wallowing in Suffering playlist. Under the playlist title, you can see the quote, "I'd rather be angry than crushed," which is from Renee Rapp's song To Well. And that's why Carrie posted an Instagram story quoting the same song 3 months later, in November. Remember it forever. Carrie included the lyrics "forever young" and "remember it just the way it was" to reference something else I said in that same TikTok where I spoke about crashing.
Plus, me staying in this is just tangling up all my pain with Carrie, and I don't want that either. Like, I don't want a lot of the pain that has existed for a long time in my life to start to taint my experience with Carrie, when up until recently, like, my experience with her has been nothing short of magic. Like, I want to remember it that way forever.
And after I made a TikTok pointing out that reference, Carrie used her hands to emphasize that part of the song in her next 3 TikToks. Watch her mouth that last part now. Buckle up. In the first TikTok she posted after seeing me make the "remember it" connection, Carrie captioned it, "buckle up," which is what someone had said to me in the comments section of my video. Girls in mind. And then in the TikTok she posted after that, she captioned the TikTok, "Guess this song is about all the girls forever looping in my mind," as the way it's worded seems to be a reference to the song Girls, 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 which contains the line "girls going wild in my mind." Song promo. A major concept for the song promo was Polaroids. The reason why Carrie used Polaroids is because right at the beginning of our connection, I used Polaroids of her in a love spell and on my vision board. Using Polaroids also meant that she was able to hide the letters A, U, S, for Australia, together on her song card. Leading up to the song drop, Carrie also took a stuffed koala with her to Paris and followed a past life hypnotherapist from Melbourne, Australia. She avoided telling people when the song would be dropping until the last minute, but she dropped it on my birthday, the 8th of December. Again, this alludes to the fact that the real muse of the song is not who you initially might think.
I get why you did what you did. I understand how you justified it in your head. I'm sure to you it was poetic to hide me in that song because Taylor Swift uses Trojan horse muses to disguise who the real muse is. And because she narrated so much of our love story, I'm sure you found it poetic for you to do the same thing. I'm not saying that it wasn't a poetic choice to make, because it was, but I think ultimately it highlights the difference between where you're at and where I'm at. You're out here making things poetic, and I'm waking up every day asking myself how on earth I'm going to survive this for another day. At the end of the day, it feels like you made a choice without thinking about how to do that in a way that minimized harm to me, and without thinking about how it might affect me, while you're running around making art, cutting a check off both of our pain and getting smoke blown up your butt. I'm getting attacked online, having my sanity and character unfairly questioned, and I haven't been getting the physical things and explicit communication that I've needed to regulate despite asking repeatedly. And I'm struggling, and I have been struggling for a long time, and I don't feel seen in that pain and struggle. I'm not trying to imply that you don't care, because I know you probably care deeply with your feelings, but the thing is, I'm not having your personal emotional experience. I don't know if or how deeply you care inside. I only see how you care in action. And based on the actions that I've seen from you, I think you need to think about how your feelings are translating to the other people, because this isn't the first time that you've heard similar feedback, and I'm telling you, it's affecting your relationships with people, and it's deeply affected your connection with me. Personally, I feel like a broken record with this. I don't feel cared for. I don't feel like you're seeing or hearing me. I told you from the very first YouTube video that I made that uncertainty and non-explicit communication makes my nervous system go haywire as someone on the spectrum. But here we are over a year later, and you're still doing this to me. And I just don't feel like you're getting why that's making me panic so much, and why I'm finding it so hard to trust you with my mental and emotional well-being. I understand why it's hard for you to really consider how other people are thinking and feeling sometimes. I know that your own emotional experience is so loud that it can drown out everything else. I get that because you have no emotional skin, you experience everything like a million needles on bare flesh, and I cannot begin to imagine what that's like for you. But the thing is, it cannot be an excuse to monopolize all the emotional space, because I have shit going on too. I need emotional space too. My emotions aren't intense the way your emotions are intense, but my nervous system and stress responses are extremely intense. And that's why part of being autistic is the constant pursuit of safety, safe food, safe people, safe routines, structure, predictability, and definitely no uncertainty and no non-explicit communication. And I just don't feel like you're getting that about me, especially when you said we crashed just as quick as we burned, because we didn't crash fast. We crashed in slow motion. I've been crashing ever since I didn't get the clarity that I asked for in that very first YouTube video over a year ago. I have more emotional inertia than you. Once I'm moving in one direction, I need intervention. I'm not like you. I don't feel one thing 1 second and another the next. I'm either always spiraling up or always spiraling down. I don't ping pong around. And I think you not getting that about me creates a bad cycle. I need safety and certainty, or my nervous system spazzes out and I start clawing for safety. And a lot of the time what that looks like is my flight response kicking in, which then triggers you because it makes you feel abandoned. And then you become either self-destructive or your fight response kicks in, which only makes me even more unsafe feeling, thus creating a downward spiral. But I feel powerless to stop it because there's no way for me to find safety in this situation. I can't find it when I leave, and I can't find it when I stay either. I just feel so chronically unsafe no matter what I do. We're in a situation right now where you have so much more power than I do, and I feel so vulnerable to the choices that you're making from that position of power, because the thing that worries me is that based on your behavior so far, I can see that you're wounded when it comes to power, which makes it hard for me to trust you with it. For example, I see you struggle with how much power and control the music industry has over your art and your autonomy when it comes to expressing yourself. And then I see you turn around and pull other people under that power and control too, like you did with Becky, like you did with Shannon, like you did with me. I think it hurts you to have your power taken away from you, and then it makes you blind to the fact that from that feeling of disempowerment, you have a tendency to then exercise your own power over others the way the industry exercises its power over you. And I get that. I don't blame you for wanting other people to hurt with you. And you know what? Like, I'm actually fine with you being a little bit sadistic like that. Like, I can be a little bit masochistic myself, so that in itself is not a problem at all for me. That can be fun, even in the bedroom with consent and a safe word in a safe situation. I am so willing to give power to you if that makes you feel good. It's even a little bit hot for me, but where I get concerned is that I need to know that you're self-aware about the way you are with power, because I need to be able to trust you that when I ask you to stop pushing me, you will. And so far, I haven't been able to trust you to listen when I say no. And that's what makes me panic about the fact that you decided to hide me in that song instead of giving me the explicit and physical things that I've been telling you that I've needed for months, if not over a year now. To me, the way I'm receiving it is that it is a way for you to maintain the power that you currently have over me, because I don't see a good enough reason for you to be avoiding giving me the things that I need at this point. So I can only assume that the reason has more to do with what's going on inside you than what's going on outside of you. At the end of the day, Taylor hides muses in muses because she's not out. It's a necessary form of self-preservation for her, but girl, you're out. It's not necessary for you to hide a muse in a muse at this point, so why are you? I understand that because I'm getting attacked so heavily online that you might have wanted to soft launch it and try and get more people to change sides, but before you said something explicit. And I get that maybe you're trying to save some people, or maybe you're trying to save yourself from losing people. But at the end of the day, those people made a choice to send me hate, even though they didn't know me or bother to find out a scrap of information about who I really am before they went around questioning my character, my sanity. They also didn't consider that they couldn't have possibly have known what's going on behind closed doors with you and I. And unfortunately, you cannot save people from the consequences of their own choices and actions. And if you lose them because they decided to be hateful online, that says more about them than anything or anyone else. Once everything came out, they were always going to have the opportunity to own their mistake and make it right with the people that they hurt with their actions anyway. And the ones who aren't accountable for their actions and who have no intention of making things right with the people that they hurt, namely you and I, they don't deserve access to your energy anyway, frankly. You cannot control that, and you just have to let it be what it is and let people live with the consequences of their own actions. And as a sidebar, I think that means facing the consequences of your own actions too, because if you'll remember, like right at the start of June, I did send you a message telling you that what ended up happening was going to happen, that things were going to escalate and snowball very quickly, and I was about to get a lot of hate online, and you decided not to do anything about it then, not to de-escalate it then before it got to this point. And I think at the end of the day, you need to own that that's the choice that you made, and now the situation is what it is, and now there's going to be some fallout from that decision. The reason why I've been actively fighting against this situation that we're in the whole time is because I knew it was a recipe for disaster from the get-go. I knew that there was going to be a lot of fallout from the way the situation was set up. I did not see it going any other way other than this kind of intense drama and these kinds of intense consequences of some of the choices that were made back then. I knew that I wouldn't be able to handle it personally, emotionally either, especially for this long, and I knew that it would be insanely hard for you. I wanted to stop us from getting here, but I feel like I'm the only one fighting for us not to be in this situation. Now I know that you're choosing to not be here when I need you and have been needing you. Now that my birthday has passed, I know that no one is stopping you from getting on a plane. You and I both know that you were supposed to be here by now, but at the last minute you moved the goalpost, and I think that's because there's a shadowy part of you that never wanted us to make it. I think there's a part of you that wanted to destroy the love someone else has for you so that you never have to hold it with care, because ultimately you don't trust yourself to do that. And then I think you become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because you fear destroying what you love, you do exactly that. And I think maybe on an even deeper level than that, I think maybe the reason why you moved the goalpost at the last minute was because you knew that if we were able to talk, you wouldn't be able to destroy us the way you can when we can't. And maybe that scares you even more, because if we can talk and you can know for certain that I see you and maybe you're not as all bad as you think you are, you might actually be able to have the love that you've always wanted. Then you won't be able to hide behind that bad guy limiting belief that you have. And then what could be more scary than that? Because if you're not the bad guy, if you're not who you have always believed yourself to be, then who are you? And I think that's why you chose to hide me under a plot about Shannon, because you and Shannon have opposite shadows of the mother, and I think you represent keeping each other stuck in your own shit. Shannon clearly has a victim mother wound, and you clearly have a bad guy mother wound. She received her mother as coddling and enabling, which left her with a belief that she's always the victim. You very clearly have received your mother, regardless of whether it's true or not, as emotionally distant and critical, which left you with a belief that you're always wrong, the bad guy, not good enough. And that's why y'all were so addicted to each other, because you reinforced each other's childhood wounds. In your relationship, you got to do what you always wanted to do, which is find a way to be the aggressor or the bad guy, or simply just become how you perceived your mother to be, emotionally unavailable to you. She got to put herself in situations to victimize herself, put herself in situations that made her feel endangered, or become her mother and coddle and enable you. But because our complexes color the way we see and interpret the world, they become our blind spots. Shannon could also not see nor wanted to confront the ways that she can be antagonizing or she can be the aggressor in a situation, and you couldn't see nor wanted to confront the ways that you can be the victim and you can be the scapegoat in a situation. So even when she was the one causing you harm, she still played and thought of herself as the victim. And even when you were the wrong party, you still played and thought of yourself as the aggressor. That's also why the song makes me concerned and not flattered, because in it I hear you staying in that bad guy mentality, and I don't want to be forced to play your victim. I want to be your partner and your equal, because I think that's how relationships really work. I don't think there's necessarily a victim and an aggressor dynamic that necessarily is being played out or has to be played out. I think you can have relationships between two equals that have very different worldviews and very different needs, and being able to come together without making someone the victim and the aggressor all the time. I don't want to feel like a toy. I want to feel like your partner who meets some of your physical, mental, emotional, sexual, and spiritual needs. And I want to feel like you're my partner who meets some of my physical, mental, emotional, sexual, and spiritual needs. Plus, if that wasn't concerning enough, the song almost seems like you're talking about us in the past too. Like we've already been destroyed. And maybe you're right. Maybe we are. I can see how this has gone on for too long to be savable. I think we might have always been lying to ourselves to think we were going to make it under these circumstances. I think we were probably doomed the second we didn't talk right at the start, especially given both of our psychological profiles. And I think it was potentially always going to pan out this way. I think if that's the case, it's unkind of us to hold on to each other for any longer. I think if we have any chance of living without each other, I think we need to let each other go now before something even worse happens. It's all this stuff that I'm describing to you now that I'm seeing, which is the reason why I'm sitting in so much distress and why I can't just sit tight, because I'm not seeing evidence that it's safe for me to just sit tight. I'm seeing all of these things that feels like threats to me, and I'm aware that I have a very hypervigilant nervous system that errs far more on the side of caution, and therefore I may not be seeing the situation clearly. But if I cannot get clarity and reassurance and explicit communication from you, you cannot be blaming me for being so panicked right now. I don't trust that you're going to be different with me than what you have been in the past, and maybe that's unfair, but that's how I feel based on what I can see and what I've experienced so far. I'm worried that you won't stop self-sabotaging. I'm worried that you'll always want to be the bad guy. I'm worried that you'll continue to misuse your power over me. I'm worried that you won't be able to take into consideration where I'm at and what I need. And that's why I've been having panic attacks for the first time in my entire life. It's why I'm overwhelmed, why it feels like it's all too much, and why it has felt like too much for such a long, long time. There is simply too much going on in my head and in my nervous system. This isn't even the half of it, and I just don't feel like you understand, nor do I feel like I could even explain everything else going on in my head and why this is all just too hard for me, nor do I want to over the internet, because frankly, I don't think the internet deserves my vulnerability at this point. I am literally in the worst possible situation that you could possibly put me in as an autistic person, and I don't think you're seeing just how bad it is and how the situation just keeps getting worse and worse for me. This is why I should have had a say, and why you should never have been making decisions about my life without me. You have no right to decide what I can and can't handle without asking me and without listening to me when I've told you that you've gone too far. I've been needing relief from this situation for so long, but right now it feels like I'm not ever going to get it. And I'm sick of begging for compassion and getting nothing. I feel deeply trapped and unsafe, and I just want it to be over because I cannot do this anymore. At this point, I can't help but feel or be worried that you won't be happy until you destroy us both mentally and emotionally, or the situation gets so desperate that we actually Romeo and Juliet ourselves just for it to be over. And I really have no idea what to do with that. I feel like I can't win. As far as I can see, there is only disaster. I just think that you really need to think about what you're doing and why you're doing it. Like, actually get real with yourself. And I think it's time that you stopped living in a fantasy and start dealing with the reality that we're in. I think maybe it's time that I start doing that too, and stop thinking about the potential of us and start thinking about the reality of where we're at right now, because it is not a good reality.